Hey guys, I'm back finally after being on hiatus, I guess you can say, for a minute. I think it's been about a year already, if not maybe a little more, maybe a little less, but it's been a while. The last video I posted was the I'm back video where, I announced that I'm restarting my YouTube channel. And I was very excited, and I still am. But in that video, I announced that I was pregnant, and unfortunately, 3 weeks later, my son passed away. And me and my family were mourning. We were in shock. We did not understand what had happened. It was very, very sudden. And I felt like it wouldn't be right for me to post other videos without me, first of all, acknowledging our loss. And I feel like I can now talk about it and explain to you guys what I went through. And yeah, this is my son's story. So, October of 2018, I found out that I was pregnant. It was a surprise pregnancy. It was not planned. But we were excited. We were super nervous. We were just newlywed. I was 22 at the time. Or maybe even still 21. Yeah, I was still 21. And, no, I was 22. But we were excited. We were super scared, super nervous, and my entire pregnancy was incredible. My son was very healthy. I felt him move at a very, very early on. And I loved being pregnant with him. It was an incredible time. It was an incredible feeling. But the beginning of April of 2019, last year, on a Friday night, our friends had invited us over for their housewarming, or apartment warming, I guess, place. They had just gotten married and just moved in. They invited friends for, I guess, to welcome the place. I don't know how to say it. And that day was crazy busy for me. It was a Friday night. And normally I feel my son move around a lot. Like, a lot. And that day I hadn't noticed that he hadn't moved really much at all. As we got there, it was roughly around 8:30-ish, closer to 9. I started feeling like little pains. They were kind of like little pinpricks, in a sense. And they weren't very sharp. But they were definitely there. They were in my lower abdomen. And they lasted for a couple seconds. I don't think it was even a minute. And I mean, yeah, I noticed it. And then at that moment, I was like, hold up. I haven't really felt him all day. I knew he did move because throughout the day, I do remember kind of stopping and pausing and feeling him move around. But it wasn't as crazy as usual. And so that day I was like, oh, whatever, it's fine. Saturday that morning, I woke up and I was, again, it was a crazy busy day, and I was more aware. I was like, okay, I haven't felt him at night. I definitely do feel him a lot more often, and I didn't feel him, not once. In my brain, I think I tried to convince myself that I did feel him. And then that morning, I was like, okay, kind of started to panic, but I believe I was in denial. And so I was like, it's fine, whatever. And so I concentrated on my work, and I continued working that day. And there was a lot of family visiting I had to do and whatnot. But of course, it was in the back of my mind saying, hey, something's wrong. He's not moving. By that night, I was definitely like really scared at that point and really nervous, and I didn't know what to do. I'm young and I was scared and I couldn't believe that this could be happening to me. I mean, I only had 3 more months left, and I know that may sound like a lot, but it really isn't. I was already into my 3rd trimester. I was on my 7th month pregnant with him. So, I was like, this isn't happening. This can't be happening. So I went to bed and I barely slept that night. And then Sunday morning was when I think I started to, in a way, forcefully, admit to myself that either something's very wrong with him or he's no longer alive. And I think deep down I knew that he was no longer alive since Friday night, when I felt it. But I guess I didn't want to believe it. And so, we went to church with my husband that morning. And everybody at that time in my church was like pregnant. We were all pregnant. There was like 6 women, including myself. We were all pregnant with babies, obviously. And we were all a month after each other. So we were all pretty close in due dates and stuff. And when we were talking about, our kids meeting each other and raising each other, being friends in the future, I had such a hard time participating because deep down inside I knew that wasn't gonna happen. So I genuinely don't know how I made it through that day without breaking down or crying, but my husband definitely noticed something was wrong. I had not told him anything because I had quite a few pregnancy scares. Well, really, one I thought was a scare and it really wasn't, and then another one that was a really big scare, and we both panicked a lot, and everything turned out to be completely fine. But this time, I was like, I need confirmation. And so I told him that Sunday night that I'm gonna call in Monday and I'm gonna come in because I feel like something's wrong. He was like, okay, do you want me to come with you? I was like, no, it's fine, it's probably nothing. I genuinely didn't want to make a very big deal of it. So he's like, okay, I'll go to work. And I'm like, if anything, you'll call in, of course. He wasn't working too far. At least that's what I thought. And apparently he really was. And he didn't take his car. And I thought he did. But, I wasn't very concentrated on that. So I remember calling the hospital. And I was like, something's wrong. I need to check out my baby. And they're like, okay, what do you feel is wrong? And I'm like, well, I haven't felt a move since Friday. I felt some pain, and I just know something's wrong. I literally no longer feel pregnant. And they're like, okay, is there anybody you can take with you to the hospital? And at the time, I genuinely didn't think I, first of all, really needed anyone, and I didn't think anyone could come with me. My mother's, very sick, and so I didn't want to burden her with this, and I was like, I can't take my mother, not my parents. My husband's at work, and so I decided to call my cousin. She's a very amazing, beautiful girl, and she has a daughter of her own, and I asked her if she was working. She's like, I'm not working till 12, and I was like, great, perfect. Can you please take me to the hospital? And she's like, yeah, of course I will. And so right before calling her, they're like, okay, well, calm down, everything's fine. We're sure everything's fine. We'll come and check out the baby. Come here, here, and here. And I just had a breakdown because I knew my son was no longer alive. And I just didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to think about it. And most of all, I did not want that confirmation. But I know, of course, I had to. And so we went to the hospital. And when she picked me up, I just had this very blank expression the entire time. I had my crazy crying right before she came. And the entire time in the hospital, I was super, chill, basically. I just knew. I knew that he was no longer alive, and I just knew it. So I didn't react to much of anything people were saying. My cousin was super amazing. She took her daughter with her because, there's nobody else to stay with her, and her daughter was a really great distraction. She's a beautiful girl. She was 3 or 2 at the time. Yeah. And so, when they finally had me lay down on the examination table and they started checking for the heartbeat, I just remember closing my eyes and, I blocked everything out. Because of course I knew they were going to find one. And the nurses don't have the right to say anything. Only your doctor can. So I knew that she wouldn't be like, oh, okay, so, he's no longer alive or anything. She's like, okay, I can't find a heartbeat. Let me try a different monitor. And they tried a different one. And she's like, okay, how about I just do an ultrasound on you? So I'm laying there and my cousin's like consoling me. She's like, everything's fine. I had a crazy scare too. Your baby's fine. And as much as I loved her for it, I just wish I could be like, I know it's not. Can you just stop? But at the time, it was actually very helpful. Her daughter again was in there, and she was making things a little easier. And then they came in with an ultrasound machine stuff. They started doing an ultrasound. And I remember laying there, and I closed my eyes, and I was like, the last time I saw my son was 4 days before this, 4 or 5 days. And he was moving around, and he was so energetic and alive. I don't want to see him like this on the monitor. And of course, you can hear mumbling, and again, I blocked it out. I didn't want to hear any of it. And my cousin, at the time, she was just like holding my hand. She was like, okay, well, he's laying a little weird, but it's okay. I knew it wasn't. And so it took about 15 minutes, and they asked me if I could call my husband in. And I was like, yeah, I can call him in. I called him, and he was like, okay, well, I'm gonna have my mother-in-law, pick him up because he wasn't on his car. And I mean, he knew too. As soon as I called him, deep down, he knew. Anyways, my doctor came in. She was working that day. Yes, I don't know, whatever. She was in the building, and she had to deliver me the news before my husband came, and came in. She was like, I'm sorry to tell you that your son passed away, and he hasn't been alive for at least a couple days. And I knew for a fact at that moment that it must have been Friday night that he had passed away. And of course, I didn't think I had any more tears in me, and my cousin hugged me, and I broke. I started crying. Everyone started crying. And I was like, okay, so then people walking in and out, taking tests. The doctor said we couldn't find anything physical in the ultrasound that could have caused this. When you give birth, we can do an autopsy, all these things. And then this program came in, called Forget Me Not. And they're an incredible organization. I gotta come down so you guys can understand me. And so while they were speaking to me, my husband had arrived, and of course, we had a moment alone. I had explained to him, and he's like, I had a feeling for a couple of days that you were telling me something, but I didn't want to push it. And we had a moment, of course. We cried, talked about it, and then the organization, this wonderful woman came back in. She's like, okay, so our program is completely free. We can take pictures of your son once he's born. We can do like little handprints, just like basically a little memorial for your son, and it was all completely free, and we agreed to it. And so this is like the little box they made for us, essentially. And it's incredible. It's very sweet. They gave us a little onesie here, although my son was bigger than this when he was born. He did not fit in this. I know it looks pretty big on camera, but it's actually smaller in person. A little hat that he also couldn't completely fit in. And then we have his handprints right here. These little footprints. And they also gave us like little cards. Just little hands. You know, and then the entire box is full of just stuff of his, like little shoes. I have my ultrasound pictures ahead of him, and of course, essentially his birth certificate. And he was born April 12th of 2019. He weighed 2 pounds and 9.6 ounces. He was 15.5 inches, and the time I delivered him was at 8:27 p.m. I came in Thursday night, and they started inducing me for labor to give birth to him. And then Friday night was when I gave birth to him, and he was an incredible baby boy. He was so big than I thought he would be. And he looked he actually reminded me a lot of my dad. And the entire labor was it was a journey. It was almost 24 hours. My contractions were crazy. My epidural failed me about an hour and a half before I had to give birth. It just stopped working. I don't know why, but I won't go too much into detail with that. I remember coming in at Thursday at 8, and they started inducing me. They wanted to soften my cervix at first, so they inserted like little tablets to soften my cervix. They inserted them vaginally every 4 hours for about 10-12 hours, and then they started to induce me through an IV. And those were stronger medication, of course, and my contractions were insane. And the entire process was pretty painful, but I mean, the entire time I did not care. I couldn't believe that I was going to give birth to my son. And when I did, the entire birth in general was pretty quick after they broke my water. As soon as they broke my water, about 20 minutes in, my epidural started to stop working. I mean, I started feeling my feet, and then slowly, gradually went up, and then I started feeling my catheter. I started feeling my contractions again, and then I felt my son crowning. And I told the nurse that I'm starting to feel like I need to go to the bathroom number 2, but it just doesn't feel right. And she checked me. She's like, "Oh yeah, there's your baby's head." And so I was dilated 3%, and then it just went to 10 real quick after they broke my water. And when I saw my son for the first time, it was incredible. It took me about, I think, less than 10 minutes to push him out. But he was much bigger than they thought he would be. He was roughly 2 sizes bigger than they thought he would be. Especially for a girl my size. I'm pretty small, and so they didn't think he would be that big. So all the clothes that we had picked out for him, we had to rethink completely. But I held him for a very long time. We said our goodbyes. You know, that next day we had allowed family to come and see him and say goodbye to him as well. And then I think it was Saturday evening, Saturday night that we went home. And it just I felt so empty and so, I felt empty, and it took me a minute to bounce back. But with the help of family and friends and my husband and incredible people, I was able to bounce back. We miss him a lot, but we will always remember him. He was a beautiful boy, and that's really my son's story. I don't know how to end this. We are excited to start a family. This is definitely not dulled our, if anything, it has wanted us to make a family more, and hopefully that will be happening very soon. It's been about a year. In a month it's going to be a year since I gave birth to him, which is insane and so crazy, and I can't believe it. But I mean, what I went through with him and everything was incredible, and I love him, and I will miss my son forever. But I know he is in heaven with God, and I can't wait to meet him one day. So, that is my son's story. I'm sorry for the way I look and for crying so much, and if you don't understand what I'm saying, I apologize. But, I mean, yeah, if you guys, like this video or have your own stories to tell me, please comment below or contact me on my social media and my Instagram, Facebook. I will leave that all in the description box below. Please subscribe, and there will be a lot more videos coming soon, I promise. So, yes. Thank you for watching, you guys. Bye.